In this video we'll be looking at 14.6 rotations. Our central question today will be, how do I rotate a figure? Now a rotation is simply a transformation that turns a figure. A transformation that turns a figure. The center of rotation is a point that the figure turns around. Now here we have our three rules. These could be memorized. I'm going to show you also an alternative way of doing this. So you can choose the way where you memorize these ideas. So when you see a 180-degree rotation about the origin, what's very key is that all these rotations are occurring about the origin. So when you see a 180-degree rotation about the origin, x, y, well, all that happens is the sign of x changes and the sign of y changes. I want to stress, this does not mean that the x is negative. It means it becomes its opposite. So some examples would be 5 comma negative 2 would become negative 5. The opposite of 5 is negative 5, comma, and the opposite of negative 2 is 2. So now we're doing a 90 degrees clockwise and a 270 degree counterclockwise. So these are the same kind of turns, because if let's look at this coordinate plane down here. Say I'm starting up here. If I turn 90 degrees clockwise, I'll end up 90 degrees clockwise going in a rightward direction. So I'm going to end up here. So I'm starting here and then I go 90 degrees and I end here. But if I started here and I did 270 degrees counterclockwise, well, here's 90 degrees, here's 180 degrees, and then here's 270. So you end up in the same position as if you did a 90 degrees clockwise. So these 90 degrees and 270 degrees counter are the same rotation. And what happens here is our xy switches places. The x switches places with the y, and the x becomes its opposite, now in a y position. So what that would look like is, say I had 3 comma negative 4. Well, that would turn into, I'm going to switch their places, negative 4 comma 3, and then the 3, the x becomes its opposite, so it becomes negative 4, negative 3. And again, this is strictly about the origin. So if we're spinning around any other point, you can't use these rules. For the sake of this introduction to rotations, most of our problems that we'll be looking at, I'm fairly confident all the problems we'll be looking at will be rotated about the origin. And if you're doing a 90 degree counterclockwise or a 270 degree clockwise, these are again one and the same, and it's about the origin. So you can memorize this idea as well, where the x and y switch, but then the y becomes its opposite. So say I had 7, negative 9, I'm going to switch their positions. So we'll have negative 9 comma 7, but then the y becomes its opposite, so it becomes a positive 9. So we can memorize these three situations, or when we get to some examples, I'll show you some different ways of looking at it. Okay, so let's tell whether each image is a rotation. Well, it looks like I have turned this rectangle, so we'll call that a rotation. Yes. We can think of it as a 90-degree counterclockwise or a 90-degree clockwise rotation. For B, I could think of this thing as rotating around, and then it would match up because the bottom would spin around. This bottom piece would spin around, and as it spun around, it would end up matching up with the bottom here. So we can think of that as a 180-degree rotation, so yes. This one isn't really a rotation because if I'm trying to rotate from one figure to the next, the top pointy hat would actually be pointing downwards. So I would say this is not a rotation. Okay, so next what we're going to do is look at some examples. So rotate the triangle 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. Well, we could use our algebraic, memorize these ideas. So we can look at that algebraically. So we know that xy is sent to 90 degrees clockwise. We will switch the x and the y and make the x its opposite. So xy is sent to y comma negative x. So let's do that for all three of our points. So let's see, let's point A starts off at negative 5 comma 6. And when it's sent to A prime, I'm going to switch the order and make the x its opposite. So 6 comma negative 5, and then becomes a positive 5 to make it its opposite. And then we have point B, point being negative 5 comma 3. And we'll send that to B prime, where we switch the order and make it its opposite. So 3 comma negative 5, make x its opposite, and now we have a positive 5. And then point C, B prime, I apologize. Point C, which is located at negative 3 comma 3. And we'll send that to C prime, and that will switch the order, 3 comma negative 3, and the x becomes its opposite, so that would be a positive 3. So that's one way you can do that, where we memorize them. Another way to do this would be to draw the picture and then rotate it. So what I mean by that is to show you that, we're going to need a piece of graph paper. So pause right here and grab yourself a piece of graph paper. Okay, so if we took this chance to graph a piece of graph paper, we're not going to need the whole thing, so I'm going to just cut it into fourths. So I only need about a fourth of this. So I'm folding it in half. I'm going to fold it in half again. Now I have a piece of graph paper, much more manageable to be spinning and whatnot, because we will be rotating this. So the first thing I want to do is draw my XY plane, but I want to label, I don't want to label too much, really. So I'm just going to draw it, and I'm going to give it some tick marks. I'm not going to label the tick marks. I don't want to label the X and Y axes. I just want to draw it so it's normal, and then I'm going to just draw my tick marks, but I'm not going to give them actual number values. Okay, and if you have this, you can, you maybe want to draw your XY like this in some kind of permanent ink, and that way, as you move through problem to problem, you can just erase and use the same XY plane. That could be an option. So first thing we're going to do is draw our pre-image, our given pre-image. We're going to plot that onto onto the XY plane we just created. Okay, so I already know, so I can plot it by using the values that I have. Well, B is at A is at negative 5 comma 6. So I'm just going to count over to negative 5 and then do my comma 6. I'm not going to label anything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I can label that A, but I don't want to label any of my values. And now for B, we'll go to negative 5 comma 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And for point C, we're at negative 3 comma 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we have our triangle ABC. Like so. Now my instructions tell me to rotate this triangle 90 degrees clockwise. So what I can do is I can take my pen, what I've drawn, I'm going to spin it 90 degrees clockwise. So 90 degrees would be one rotation, like so. Boom. And now we have our new location for our points. A prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, comma 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, comma 5. And is that what we had for our A prime? 6, 5. So just by taking your original image and not having any of this labeled so we don't confuse ourselves and just rotating it 90 degrees, boom, 90 degrees spin clockwise. Now I have my new location of my new image. So I can just plot this. Well, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 5. So I go over 6, up 5. I can plot my point, and this will be my A prime. Then we'll go 1, 2, 3, up 5, so 3, comma 5. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, comma 3, 3, 3. And there's my B prime and C prime. And now we can connect the dots. Let's verify with our algebraic way to make sure that this all matches up. A prime is at 6, comma 5. That looks good. B prime, we're looking for 3, comma 5. 1, 2, 3, up to 5. That looks good. And then C prime is at 3, comma 3. That looks good. So you can just take the image that you've drawn, spin it however you need to spin it. So this would be clockwise 90, clockwise 180, clockwise 270, and then we're back to where we started. Or you go counterclockwise, clockwise 90, clockwise 180, counterclockwise 270, and then counterclockwise one more time back to where we started. And now we can see that it's just by spinning it, I can see where the new image will be located. So let's try this idea using for part B. Rotate the triangle about the origin 180 degrees. So we're going to take this and rotate it 180 degrees. Here's our pre-image. Our original image, we're going to rotate it 180 degrees. So that's one spin is 90, another spin is 180. And now we have where our new image should be plotted. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down 6 for A double prime. And then for B double prime, we'll go over 5, down 3. And then for C double prime, we'll go over 3, down 3. Just like that. And we can connect the dots. Okay, so let's find the coordinates of our image. Well, A double prime is located at 5, comma negative 6. B double prime is located at 5, comma negative 3. And then C double prime is located at 3, comma negative 3. Let's see if this matches our rule. Our rule for 180 orientation is xy becomes its opposite, like so. And did this happen? Is this true? Well, here's our a, b, and c. So the opposite of -5 is 5, and the opposite of 6 is -6. So they became its opposite. B became its opposite, and then point C became its opposite. So it works. So when we're rotating around the origin, if you don't want to spend the time memorizing these three rules, we can draw the image exactly where it's located, not labeling. It's important to not label this so we don't get confused with positives and negatives and x and y axes or whatnot. And then just spin it clockwise 90 degrees. And now you see where your new points, your new prime points, will be located for your new image. We're going to stop the video right here. I think you have enough to make it through the assignment. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.